Grimggera, Grimtorock, Grimgohma, and Grimgibdo. These are the 4 Archfiends in Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. When Ganondorf became the Demon King, he summoned these 4 monstrous beings to ravage the land and instill fear into Raru's resistance.
Weak, fragile creatures!
Hello everyone, I'm HylianBricks, and in today's video I'll be showcasing my Lego Archfiends from Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. Throughout my time here on YouTube, I've set on a mission to build everything from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, Tears of the Kingdom, and now Age of Imprisonment. If you'd like to support the cause, consider subscribing for more LEGO Legend of Zelda content. I also have an ongoing stop-motion series called Hyrule Champion, which I highly encourage you all to watch. With everything said and done, I could finally show you all my LEGO Archfiends from Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. Starting with Grimggera, the Archfiend of Tempests. Grimggera is one of the biggest atrocities to have ever come out of the Legend of Zelda franchise.
Grimggera was one of the coolest bosses we've had in decades. It had so much atmosphere and just charm and coolness, and it was so big and it was so cool.
A massacre of aura. Despite not being the biggest Grimggera lover, I can't deny that the LEGO version I built is absolutely perfect. For the longest time I've had these transparent blue spider legs from this LEGO Chima elephant set that worked perfectly for Grimggera's arms. His body was built backwards to allow the positioning of these gems for his spikes. Then we got his head, which was the most difficult part to build. Since Grimggera is a nonchalant dreadhead, I gave him some curved 1x1s and these interesting looking spike elements for his hair. Hey everyone, HylianBricks from the future here. While doing some research for this video, I found out that hairpiece is actually fake. It belongs from the Creo Transformers line that is a bootleg LEGO company. But for the purposes of anyone at home trying to reverse engineer this build, I suggest using these sausage pieces for that hair. Now that we talked about Grimggera, it's time that we compare him to the much cooler Grimgera. Originally, I showcased my LEGO Grimgera in my Tears of the Kingdom boss video, but ever since he's received major upgrades, like a longer body, better wings, and a slimmer face. Now having them both side by side does beg the question on how the Archfiends evolved into the bosses that we know from Tears of the Kingdom. But with both Grimggera and Grimgera, I could definitely see the resemblance, specifically when it comes to their spikes and wings. And with that said, I think it's up to you guys in the comments to decide which of these two builds do you prefer. With everything done for Grimggera, I think it's about time we move on to Grimtorock. Next up is Grimtorock. Grimtorock is the most interesting looking out of the Archfiends, as he's quite literally a mummified guy covered in grime. As such, I decided to use minifigure parts for his torso and legs. As with a lot of my brick-built characters, I used a Travis brick to assemble the parts for his face. And believe it or not, building this guy's head was an absolute challenge. Essentially, Grimtorock is basically a giant brain drooping with grime. Finding a good width to length ratio for that head was incredibly difficult, hence me using a 3x2 plate. Finally, we got his arms, which truly make this guy stand out. I used a flexible Technic hose with a white minifigure crown and a pink flower at the end. And of course, I need to compare this guy with my brand new beautiful version of Grimtorock. I originally showed this guy in my Tears of the Kingdom boss video, but in my previous video I gave him an update. That update consisted of these brand new arms and a new head sculpt, which is way beautiful than the last version I had. Comparing him to Grimtorock, yeah, I really don't know how to explain this one. Unlike Grimggera, I can see the resemblance of evolution. This guy, I cannot see how an emo guy can turn into this. But yeah, it's confusing. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And now we should proceed with the next build. Moving on, we got Grimgohma. Grimgohma was first shown in the third Age of Imprisonment trailer, where I thought it was a new enemy variant of a marbled Lionel. Alright, hear me out. I originally thought this guy was going to be a marbled Lionel because, you know, in the Zora Wetlands quest we have like sludge-likes, we have enemies just covered in sludge, so I thought it would be cool if marbled enemies like marbled Lionels, marbled Hinoxes, monsters that are covered in that rock would be a cool new enemy variant, but I guess my expectations are far from reality. And far from reality I was indeed, because when I saw the rest of his body, I froze. As seen with my mutated Ganon, Queen Gibdo, and Calamity Ganon, I have a horrible building experience when it comes to making arachnids. Is Grimgohma considered an arachnid? I actually have no idea, but yeah, forget that. Surprisingly, Grimgohma had very few troubles when making. I started with his head, which was very easy to build, unlike his limbs. You see, in the trailer he is shown in his second form with lava arms and legs and with a literal volcano on his back. But since this build is based on his first form, I needed his arms and legs to have bulk for the marbled rock. And then we have his turtle-like back that has a lot of these modified 2x2s for texture and this super awesome octagonal boulder to complete the look. And of course, we're comparing Grimgohma to Marbled Gohma. Marbled Gohma hasn't received much of an update since. One of the main changes is to make these crab legs more pointy and adjust the bottom for better stability. Something to note that at the end of Tears of the Kingdom, when all the bosses are gathered up to fight Link and the sages, is that Marbled Gohma is incredibly scaled up next to the other bosses, and I understand why they might want to change them to this design in Age of Imprisonment to better suit the gameplay style, but these bosses scale up really nicely next to each other, unlike the Tears of the Kingdom bosses, where Grimggera is like super massive. This guy, for some reason, got like extra huge. But I still love both of these guys equally. Putting them next to each other, you can clearly tell they're meant to be the same boss from Tears of the Kingdom and Age of Imprisonment. The only major difference is that this guy is a crab and this is a turtle, arachnid, whatever monstrosity it is. Alright, so before we move on to Grimgibdo, there is one thing that I want to share, and that is my updated seized construct. I originally shared this guy in my Tears of the Kingdom boss video, but since he is not a bad guy in Age of Imprisonment, I decided to just show you the update here. One of the main things that I changed was this, the secondary arms. I added them, I extended them. They look way more cool. It looks way more intimidating than having them shut down and closed, and since they were just like protruding outwards and it was like a long stick, it looks kind of off. Same thing with his chest plate. I just gave him this round piece instead. There's not really much of a change. It's just that, but just look at this. That one change just gives him a better presence. He looks way cooler than he did before. I'm really happy with it. Very simple change. But with this shown, I think it's now time that we move on to Grimgibdo. Finally, we got Grimgibdo. Grimgibdo is my favorite out of the 4 Archfiends, as she preserves elements from her Tears of the Kingdom counterpart while also being something new. Previously, I used a wedge plate for Queen Gibdo's face, but since I knew I'll have to make a second copy for Grimgibdo, I completely redesigned it by flipping it the other way around and adding some teeth. And while I was at it, I stole 2 leaves from the Deku tree to redesign her antennas. Now, something that is very interesting that I noticed when building this too is that the skin color for the face and arms has changed. In Tears of the Kingdom, you could say Queen Gibdo is brown or even tan, while in Age of Imprisonment, Grimgibdo, she is more so just black. You can see it in the cutscenes. So of course, I had to adjust that minor change for these builds. Then we got her body, that is made out of pieces that I stole from my Discord mod Hestu. Those include this curved wedge that's also in the official build of Hestu, and these arches that flare out for her wings. Now don't get me wrong, Queen Gibdo is the second coolest boss next to Grimggera, but something about Grimgibdo is that I really like is it kind of combines what Queen Gibdo is meant to be, which is a queen bee in a hive, but they literally made her a queen by giving her this butterfly-like dress, and while you fight her, the second stage form evolves into a distressed version of that dress, which very closely resembles the one that we know from Tears of the Kingdom, hence why I like her so much. Also, we gotta acknowledge that she's the one that ultimately somewhat destroyed the Knight construct. If it weren't for her throwing her arm at him and him trying to save Calamo, he wouldn't have been destroyed. So yeah, there is Queen Gibdo and Grimgibdo next to each other. Let me know which of the two do you prefer. And there they are, the 4 Archfiends from Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. As always, these types of videos are really fun to make. But before you click off, there's one more thing I'd like to do. I first did this in my Blight Ganon video from a few years back. Then I did it once again in my Tears of the Kingdom boss video, and that is to align all the generations from the Wild Era together. And of course, we're gonna start with the Rito, then move on to the Zora, the Gorons, and the Gerudo. Finally, we could all admire this beautiful shelf with all of Hyrule's generations. And that is all I have for today's video. Thank you all for watching, I really hope you've enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to like and subscribe as it pushes me forward to create bigger and greater projects. Speaking of some of these projects, Hyrule Champion Part 5 is coming along wonderfully with a current runtime of 26 minutes to end the year. My comic Ancients of 10,000 is also going smoothly, with it being over 100 pages of pure enjoyment. For more frequent updates, consider joining the Hyrule Champion Discord server, where you could also be featured at the end of videos like these. Thank you all for watching, I hope you have a wonderful day and an amazing new year, where I will see you for the Zelda 40th anniversary.